You know, I almost don't care about Lois Lerner and the IRS. This story I just talked to you about in the last segment, the last half of the last segment, you know, every American should have a copy of that video, and they should call 10 or 15 or 20 neighbors together, and they should sit in front of a machine and play that, and then open up the floor for discussion about what you, as a collective small group, are going to do about it. I mean, I want to know what you're going to do. Thousands and thousands of convicted sex offenders are being released back into our population because the court comes out and says freedom from imprisonment lies at the heart of the liberty protected by the Due Process Clause. And then they take that and they figure out a way to twist that so that they can use that as an excuse to release thousands, 4,359, but 2,837 of them released back into our community. We know that at least out of the 4,359 that were removed from the country, these are sex offenders now, illegal aliens who are also sex offenders. 5% of them, 220, were not only removed but came back in and then were rearrested for another offense. That, you know, I've heard Obama sit here and say, and I've heard Congress people say, if we could save just one child with anti-firearms legislation, just one child, it's worth everyone losing their gun rights over. So I'm asking you, I'm so angry about that. You know, I'm not even going to talk about Lois Lerner. I'm demanding answers from you, America. How dare this government release almost 3,000 convicted sex offenders who are going to reoffend, knowing that our children are going to be raped, killed, mutilated? Who would stand for that? How can anyone, knowing the horror that those children are going to go through, say that that is the rule of law? You know, they released 2,837. But those are only the convicted sex offenders. There were 60,000 released. And out of those, how many of those were sex offenders too, but just weren't convicted or caught? They're selling your child's innocence for a political move. And I got to ask you, America, what are you doing? What are you thinking? How can you support immigration? How can you support an open border? You young people, you youth who sit there and I see you on these focus groups and you say, our borders shouldn't be sealed. Everyone has a chance at a better life. And I listen to you and I think to myself, my God, how ignorant you are. Is that an acceptable price? Is it? Is that an acceptable price for you? So that you can say, I did the right thing by humanity. I allowed everybody to cross our border. What if that victim is you? What happens when that victim is your child? What happens when that victim is your sister? your brother. What happens when that victim is you? Will you still feel the same way? Sovereignty doesn't matter. Borders shouldn't matter. Everybody should be allowed to come in here if they want to make themselves a better life. Well, guess what? Not everybody lives in a utopian fantasy of your creation. And not everybody has the pure motive of coming here and working 10, 12 hours a day just to feed their family. Some have the motivation to come up here and be a predator on the easy sheeple pickings. How do I know that? Because 2,837 of them that have already been convicted of it once were released back into our society. And you're defending that. And that's just the ones we know about. You know, statistically, I don't know exactly what the offender rate is for sex offenders, but I know it's far higher than any other crime. I know that it's like 40, 50%. I don't know the exact number. If you do, tell me. So let's assume it's 20%. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. That's 550 sex offenders that are raping and mutilating and hurting children and women and men right now. And they're not single victims. They will do it again and again and again and again. And most of them won't be caught. You youth, you ignorance, you fools who believe that leaving our borders open is the humanitarian thing to do. Let me tell you something. Our nation's defense, our children's lives, are worth the price that all of them would have to pay if they couldn't get in. I don't have a problem with that. If you tell me, if you say to me, we can prevent, let's just say 1,000 rapes, 1,000, just children, by blocking the millions who pour across the border every year, I have no problem with that. And you shouldn't either. You screamed bloody murder when one guy went off half-cocked in Newtown and one guy went off in Aurora, Colorado, both of them full of licit chemical drugs. But you're silent now when thousands upon thousands upon thousands of women and children and even men are being raped, sexually assaulted, penetrated by some skeevy dirtbag who hasn't showered in a week. And he's slavering over your daughter like some kind of a monster. And you're okay with that. How dare you? How dare you be so myopic and self-centered that because it doesn't affect you directly yet, and it offends your false utopian fantasy, that's acceptable. How dare you? You're making too big a deal out of it. Am I? If your little kid comes home from preschool, or your 9-year-old is walking home from school and gets snatched off the street, and you subsequently find he's been tied in an attic for a week and subjected to some monster, you tell me I'm overreacting. You tell that to the thousands of parents. You tell that to the thousands of children whose lives will never be the same because some slavering sexual wolf got his jollies. You see, those children, in many instances, will never live that moment past. They will never live past it. They will never get beyond it. Their lives are forever shattered and broken. Their dreams, their hopes, their fantasies, their ideas of what life should and could be like, and all the possibilities are forever destroyed. And Immigrations and Customs Enforcement and the Supreme Court of the United States of America, the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, have allowed it. And you have sat silently by and said, I guess they just know best. Really. Tell that to your best friend who calls you up one day and says, they got my little girl. Some monsters got my little girl. Then you tell me that's acceptable. When your brother calls you, he lives in a faraway city, and he says they took your niece or your nephew, and they were beaten and mutilated and penetrated. You tell me that it's acceptable then. Tell me. How do you defy that? How do you deny that? But government knows best. They know what's right for us. Really? 2,837 of them released back into the fold, known, convicted, proven sex offenders. Those are the ones we know about. 60,000 total released. How many were in there that we didn't know about, that had already committed the crimes but just were never caught? How many will commit them again? And all you've got to say for yourself is, what? You see, this is what happens when our government makes the decisions. And you are nothing more than collateral damage. You know, I consider the offense of a sexual abuse worse than the murder or the loss of limbs and such in a terrorist attack. It's worse. I'll tell you why. That may be mindless. It may be, it may leave those people harmed, maimed, mutilated, and dead. But nothing is more senseless and brutal. Nothing is longer lasting than these sex offenses against children. Their lives are forever shattered. Everyone whose life that they're involved with, from then as they grow and mature into adulthood, their own children will be affected by that day, that moment, that event. Every single one. And you say that's an acceptable risk? Really now? Why? Because it's not your kid? It's not the neighbor who lives next door to you? It doesn't happen in your town, your neighborhood, your village, your community? It does happen. You just don't know about it. Have we fallen so low? Have we fallen so far down the rabbit hole that we would willingly allow thousands upon thousands of convicted sex offenders who have also broken our border rules? Many of them have returned multiple times. You know why? Because the pickings here are so damn easy. And they know they can operate with impunity. In Mexico, they'd just be hauled out in the backyard and they'd have their head cut off. But up here, they're given the royal treatment. Up here, they go to a prison, they languish around, they're fed, their electricity's paid for, they hang out with their pals, and then they're released back into the community to offend again. They don't come here for economic freedom. They don't come here for the benefit of the ability to feed their family back home. They don't come here to improve their life. They don't come here to improve their situation. They come here to enlarge their opportunities, their sexual proclivities. And I'm telling you right now that every one of these people who's been released back into our society, the ones we know, the ones we don't know about, statistically, they will offend again. Statistically, the vast majority are going to offend not just once, but multiple times. And they are a plague. But what's worse is they were an avoidable plague. You cannot give me enough circular rationale. You cannot give me enough plausible, believable excuses This is a report from the GOA, Government Accountability Office. It says, there are circumstances in which criminal aliens who have been ordered removed from the United States, including those convicted of a sex offense, cannot be removed. For example, a criminal alien may not be removed because the designated country will not accept the alien's return. The GOA refers to a 2001 Supreme Court case to explain why ICE is required to release foreigners who have been convicted of sex crimes. And they don't register as sex offenders. I'm asking you, as an American citizen, I'm asking you as a father, I'm asking you as a mother, I'm asking you as an uncle, an aunt, a cousin, a nephew. What about this would make you turn away from this discussion today and not take some action? What in your life is so important? What in your day will make this not be your priority? This report, 37 pages, it should be sitting on every senator's and congressman's desk. It should be the focal point of all immigration discussions. Not a single time should the word immigration be used without this report being discussed. Know these statistics. Go study it. Find it. I'll give it to you. It's on our Facebook page. It's on our website. Read it. Cut out the pieces that you think are relevant to your argument. And demand something be done. I want them rounded back up. I want them rounded up. And if their home countries won't take them, then I don't care if they rot in jail forever. If their home countries won't want them back, how dare you release them into our country? This report has the unmitigated gall to say alien sex offenders are not consistently informed of the potential registration requirements of theirs. Man, why are we allowing them to stay? Why register at all? Kick them out. You're releasing wolves into our flock. How dare you? How dare you? 2,837, once convicted and still illegal, released. How many thousands of babies? How many thousands of women? How many thousands of children? How many men will be raped, sexually abused, molested, their lives forever changed, their lives forever destroyed, so that you could be politically correct? It's inconceivable to me. They cannot be removed. I mean, it's bad enough we got our own population to worry about. But we release thousands upon thousands who aren't even ours. And we've let them in. We insert them strategically into our population. They don't register. So you don't even know it is living right next door. You don't even know that monster is driving a school bus or a taxi, or your child is walking past their house while they're sitting on the front porch watching, waiting, looking for an opportunity. I cannot. Nothing else should take precedence over this. Nothing. Not the budget talks, not Syria. They're talking about 1,400 people in Syria being gassed to death. I'm talking about 2,837 convicted sex offenders who are illegal aliens who have been released back into our community and will reoffend again. If 1,400 of them offend again, it makes Syria a non-issue. Because these are our children. You're listening to America's Voice now. I'm so frustrated and angry about this. I cannot believe this is the case. Find our website at americasvoicenow.org. Find our Facebook page at Facebook.com/America's Voice Now. Find this program on YouTube. half of the previous segment 3 and this segment, and I want you to make sure people are aware of this. Share, share, share. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. If you've watched this, you better share it. YouTube.com/America's Voice Now. We'll see you tomorrow.